Hey guys, welcome back to Attack on Iron World. How was your week? What have you been playing? Me, myself, I've been playing a little bit more Guild Wars. Only a little bit more of Guild Wars because I finally reached level 80 on my Thief, so I'm ready. I may have talked about this last week actually, but I'm now ready for the new expansion, almost. So I'm good for that. Destiny, I've not played any Destiny. I was going to, and then I thought, okay, I don't care. I'm going to be starting a new character on Destiny 2 regardless, because I wish to be a hunter or a ranger or whatever, and not a titan anymore. Just because of the powers, basically. But I'm pretty sure I've talked about that as well. Anyway, we are going to be talking about remakes today. And actually, I think this is like a remake of this episode, because I believe I've actually talked about remakes before in the past. Or at least I've talked about my feelings about remakes in the past. And my general feelings, for those of you who do not know, is they're fine. I like remakes. I like when they remake a game or when they re-release a game, because it almost like it gives me another reason to play. And those people are definitely those people who, like me, want to repurchase a game for playing it on a new console or playing it again for whatever reason, is definitely the people who they're marketing these games to, right? Definitely a demographic. There are people who hate remakes. They hate remakes with a passion, a burning passion. They hate remakes because they feel like it's taking something from it's like they're taking something from their new category, you know? Instead of this being like something good that you could have nostalgia for, people think that, oh, they should be focusing on new stuff, and they shouldn't be doing remakes. Instead, they should be making a whole new game, and that's valid. That's a valid criticism, I feel. I think that they should definitely be working on new games as well, but I feel like looking back or doing a re-release or a remake in its entirety is great. Because there's some games that some people just feel like they're too old to be played now because they're very young or they don't hold up, right? And stuff like that. Now, some remakes are great, some re-releases are terrible. There's like the infamous Silent Hill remake, or re-release, when the HD collections were a very big popular thing, which they still kind of are. And I didn't actually play that one, but a lot of people said that it was terrible. And so, okay, that's fine. That's a bad one, right? But there's loads, right? HD re-releases was a huge thing on PS3. It was huge. It spiraled out of control. I can't even remember who did it first, but it spiraled. There was the Ratchet and Clank HD re-release. There was the Jak and Daxter HD re-release. There was let me look at my shelf directly. There was the Shadow of the Colossus HD remake, the Silent Hill HD remake. There was so many different HD re-releases that people kind of got upset with them, I guess. There was so many of them, but people brought them. Loads of people brought them because they were like, this is a great game from the PS2 era that I want to play again, you know? And I was definitely among the crowd who was, yeah, I want to play these games again, and I want to play them on my current console with my current controller. I don't want to turn my PlayStation 2 back on and stuff like that. It also helps people who never had that console in the first place, which is definitely a demographic for these re-releases. Having them actually being able to play them is fantastic for a change, rather than not having the game on the previous console, Like, that was a super popular thing, which is a lot of the reason why some games re-released on the PS4 that were on the PS3, but that's still a very popular thing. Just thinking about games that re-released on many different consoles or many different things. Skyrim, for example, Skyrim's been re-released on everything under the frickin' sun, It's ridiculous how much time that's been remade, and they still expect 50, 60 quid for it. It's expensive. The Switch version is really expensive, and it's like, why? Because it's Nintendo Switch. Nintendo have been getting a lot of flack about re-releasing a lot of games. Splatoon 2 was very similar to Splatoon 1, which is actually the reason why I didn't buy Splatoon 2. But the Mario Kart Deluxe has been re-released, and it's possibly the greatest game on the Switch, next to the Breath of the Wild. Pokken is being re-released, which I'm definitely purchasing because Pokken was awesome on the Nintendo Wii U. There wasn't enough players. That's the biggest thing, right? There wasn't enough players on the Wii U to keep the game fresh. Where on the Switches are selling quicker than they can make them, you know, which is not necessarily a bad problem to have as a seller of consoles and video games. But so I'm glad that these games are being re-released. Even though I have them on the Wii U, I'm glad that they're being re-released in a form where I can continue to play them. And they're being re-released as like an updated DX version with extra character, and so that I'm really excited for it, you know. And that's just like, they're just re-releases, you know. Re-releases have come in all shapes and forms, like Resident Evil 4. You know, how many times did that re-release? Like, how many times has that been re-released? I've got it on, I think I've got Resident Evil 4 on like 4 different consoles, you know, and like Resident Evil 5 has been re-released onto the PlayStation 4 alongside 6. You know, Capcom is notorious for re-releases. They constantly re-release. Resident Evil games have been remade more times than Resident Evil games have been made, you know. There's like, what, 7 Resident Evil games, or 7 main title Resident Evil games, and there's like, you know, freaking like 30 or some shit of like remasters and re-releases of all the different versions of them, you know. So it's definitely a popular thing because they keep selling, you know. Me myself, I keep buying them. So, you know, and Capcom, they don't even re-release them inside a package. They release them separately in separate boxes. They expected 20 quid each, and I brought that because I'm stupid. You know, I think there was a bundle where you can buy all 3 of them, but it was like buy all 3 of them at the same time. So I'm pretty sure that's what I did. I brought 4, 5, and 6 all at the same time, but it was like they all came in their own individual boxes. Still, it was just like a special deal from like Game or something. But you know, the Devil May Cry games, they were re-released. The Darksiders, that wasn't Capcom, of course, but Darksiders were re-released, and they're great. By the way, if you've not played the Darksiders games on PS4, is the best way to play them. They're so good. Well, number 1 is really good. Number 2's alright. But number 3 has been announced, and it's looking great. And that's another reason why people companies do re-release, is because if the game has not been out for a while in that sort of area, they want to gauge interest. You know, like the upcoming Dragon's Dogma re-release for PS4 and Xbox One. Is it on Xbox One? I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's on Xbox One. But the point is like that's coming out, and probably trying to gauge interest in the West, and because Dragon Dogma Online came out in the East, and that was very popular over there. Didn't ever make it over here though, and they're probably just trying to gauge some interest. And yeah, I'll buy a copy of Dragon's Dogma on the PS4. Why not? Dragon's Dogma was a fucking awesome game. I'm more than happy to play that again, especially if it's going to gauge interest for something else that I want, like a Dragon's Dogma 2 or something, you know. I'm sure like it's going to sell very, very well. It's only like 18 quid and comes with all the expansion. So if you've never played Dragon's Dogma, the expansion, the new Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen on PS4 is the best way to play it, you know. I'm sure it'll be the best way to play it. And then we move on to like the remakes, you know, like the new Crash Bandicoot that has just been released, that people really enjoyed. I hated the first Crash Bandicoot because I never liked the first Crash Bandicoot. It wasn't very good, and it made me angry because its controls are bad. You know, and moving over to this one, it's okay, but definitely it's easier to play with the D-pad than it is to play with the analog stick. Because it's terrible. It's so hard to play. It baffles me why they didn't just... Because they tried to keep it as close to the game as possible, right? They tried to keep it as close to the game as possible, as the original games as you remember. And I think they succeeded in that, you know? But I really, really wish that they just used the third game's control scheme for all of them, because the first Crash Bandicoot game controls like arse. It's really, to me, it feels really unresponsive and stuff like that. But now they're talking about redoing the Spyro games. I'd fucking adore that. Hell yeah, remake the Spyro games. Remake the Gex games and the Croc game while you're at it. Oh, okay. Hello. Can I just leave? Yeah, okay, I can. And, you know, there's the remakes. There was a Final Fantasy 12. I know it was more of a re-release, I guess. Or a HD re-release. But, you know, Final Fantasy 12 did, I think it did really well, and it even made me into a fan of Final Fantasy 12, you know, after me not thinking it was going to be any good for this entire time since 12 was released. Now I played it on the PS4 and I was like, you know what, this is pretty damn good. I never really got to play it before. You know, Final Fantasy 10-2 and 10 and 10-2, they were re-released on the PS3 and then re-released again onto the PC and then re-released again onto the PS4. You know, re-releases are huge. It's not something that's just appeared overnight. You know, it's definitely been a thing that's always been there. I think the games media, I should say, are focusing on it a lot more at the moment, because there are things, the remakes are becoming a big deal at the moment. There's the Secret of Mana remake coming up, which looks pretty freaking cool. I love the looks of Secret of Mana, but I've never actually... don't cheat, fuck it. We're fine, 2 floors off. You know, I've never played Secret of Mana, so I'm really excited to play Secret of Mana on a PS4. It's also coming to PC, I believe. And that's super fucking cool that they're remaking it. And then there's, you know, the Yakuza Kiwami games, which is the very first Yakuza, and it was recently leaked that Kiwami 2 may also be a thing that's coming around soon, which is a remake of the second game, you know? And that's really cool, because I've never had a chance to play those games either, and I'm really excited to play those. In fact, tomorrow you should see a video of me playing Kiwami 1 for a little while and just checking it out, because I've never played it before. I'm super excited to play that. And that's just some of the remakes, you know. There's remakes are just in a part of it, you know. Just thinking of other re-releases that have come off the top of my head. Borderlands got re-released on the PS4. What else got re-released? The Naruto games. That was literally just the other day. Naruto came out, and it's good. It's got 1, 2, 3, and 4 plus the expansion. You know, and for people who have never played any of those games before, that's a real freaking bargain, because they're wonderful. You know, so it's good. I love remakes and re-releases. Sometimes remakes and re-releases can go in a slightly more negative way, like Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII, I so far do not like the looks of. Not because I'm a die-hard 7 fan. In fact, I'm not a big fan of 7 at all, despite many people's belief. My favorite Final Fantasy is 9, and my favorite Final Fantasy character is Zidane from 9. So, you know, I understand why people assume that I'm a massive fan of 7, but trust me, my name does not come from that. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, people just assume that, but it's not the case in this case. It's not the case. Strife is actually just a word, so it's a cool word too. I like the way it sounds. Anyway, moving on. I don't necessarily like the looks of Final Fantasy VII. It looks a bit janky, I guess you could say. And I'm not super interested in the combat. I was really looking forward to turn-based combat again. A shame that's not going to be a part of it. And the episodic thing is what really put me over the edge, where I'm just like, it's episodic, I don't care. I'm not going to let's play it, because I don't have an interest in doing an episodic game, and I'm not going to buy it as episodic. I'll buy it once it's finished, Once it's completely finished and done, then I'll buy it. What is this? Bribes and discounts, huh? I don't want this. I don't want this stuff. We've been here before. So, you know, I don't necessarily want it. I'll buy it once it's completely finished. I'll buy the Final Fantasy VII Remake once it's completely finished. But I'm a big fan of the idea of doing a complete remake, you know, a remake from the ground up of the game, but like doing its original intention or its original viewpoint, you know, which is why I'm really excited to play the Yakuza Kiwami game. It's because I never got to play the first game, but at the same time, I get to experience it for the first time as how it was intended, I believe. At least that's the way I believe it to be, right? Because if you're remaking a game like that, it's really kind of a labor of love, right? It's kind of like how Sonic Mania was born. It's really a labor of love. Love for the game and love for the, just that character, you know? And I feel like that's the same way with Yakuza Kiwami. I feel like it's the way with all the Yakuza games in general. But the Yakuza Kiwami games, being a remake of the first game that I've never played, it's great because it's such an interesting story. Yakuza always tells such a good story. Despite there being no English subtitles and all that, it's such a good story. Any Yakuza game. I've not played a bad Yakuza game yet. Right? Story-wise, it's always so incredibly interesting. And I think it's great to have a remake up because it's for the original designer. That's a dream come true, right? Because like the Metal Gear Solid games, right, is a good point of reference. Because Metal Gear Solid on the PS1, sorry. Metal Gear Solid on the PS1 was a game that was very popular. It was people loved it. I couldn't get on with the controls, and I never really played it, right? Which I intend to rectify at some point because I love the Phantom Pain. But they remastered that onto the GameCube, I believe it was, and this was around the same time as I believe it was around the same time as Capcom was remastering the first Resident Evil for the GameCube, and it was very well received as far as I know. People really enjoyed it because it was also kind of like going back to something that you did originally on like the SNES, like Secret of Mana, being able to do it with the PlayStation 4 in mind. The technology gap is so huge. You could possibly make it look like you thought it looked in your brain, you know, from those sprites to just a gorgeous 3D graphics. And I feel like that's the way for Final Fantasy VII as well, despite my negative outlook on it. It's like, instead of those cubed men, you get to look at these fully formed characters, you know? And same with Yakuza, instead of the PS2 engine and stuff like that and limitations, you now get to make a PS2 game, but without limitations. There's nothing you cannot do within the PS2 era, right? And in fact, there's still going to be limitations as far as the PS4 is concerned, but like you have so much more room to play with, and that must be so good for someone coming back and remaking a game. And that I would love to watch documentaries on that, you know? That would be so fucking interesting to do. And to be honest, I know Kojima is no longer with Konami, and I know people really don't like Konami, and I know people really don't like Metal Gear Solid Survive, despite I think it kind of looks okay. I've not played it yet, but I think it kind of looks okay. And I know Kojima's not a part of it anymore and stuff like that, but I would really like to see Konami re-release the Metal Gear Solids as a remake. Like, do a remake, make them all beautiful, make them look like the Phantom Pain, make them control like the Phantom Pain, and put them all out again. I will buy them. I will buy that. You know, it's great. Just don't be an asshole about it, you know? There's a lot of crap between Kojima and Konami, and I ain't gonna get into it now because holy shit, that's ridiculous. That's like, there's a whole Wikipedia page on that nonsense, right? With them like removing the names and like not allowing him to take awards and all this sort of shit that is just like, geesh. The point is that I know he's no longer a part of it. Put his name on it, Konami. Put his name as the writer and re-release it. You know, re-release Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, what was it, Peace Walker or Portable Ops, do Metal Gear Solid 3 and 4, redo all of them in the Phantom Pain engine with the Phantom Pain controls, and I'll buy every single one of them. Because there's stuff that I want. It's the stuff that I want to legitimately experience. Those games are something that I want to play, but I hate the control scheme. It's not intuitive. It's bad. It's a bad control scheme. Many people got used to it. Many people loved it. The control scheme was not for me. I loved the idea of the game. I loved watching people play the game. I watched my cousin play it. I watched my brother play it. And the second I started to play it myself, hated it. Couldn't control it. So I could not actually physically play it because I kept making simple mistakes because of the control scheme. And that just put me off of it, right? And then zoom forward to the Phantom Pain, where I'm in love with that game. I love the Phantom Pain so much that I want to go back and experience all the other Metal Gear games. But again, the control scheme still is bad. Fix it. Put it in the Phantom Pain engine. It's gonna sell like hotcakes. I think it will sell like hotcakes anyway. But just don't be assholes about it, Konami. You've got some of the greatest IPs in the world, Konami. Don't fuck with it, man. Just Castlevania, fucking Metal Gear Solid. Don't fuck with them. Yeah, you can make pachinko machines. Fuck, I don't give a shit. That doesn't affect me in any way. Make a pachinko machine. Do it. Make thousands of pachinko machines. I don't care. Just focus on making a game as well. They could make a lot of money, I think. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to me talk about random video game remakes for about 20 minutes. Let me know what you guys think about video game remakes in the comments below. Let me know what games you want to be remade. That's actually a good question. What games do you want to be remastered? 3 of them, okay? 3 games to be remastered, put on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. It could be anything. Don't even worry about exclusivity. Don't do anything on that. Just tell me 3 games that you want. Me, Lost Odyssey, Blue Dragon, and for a third one, it's difficult. Really trying to think of an old game that I really, really, really would love a proper remake to. Oblivion. All from the Xbox 360 era. Those 3. Those are the 3 games that I would really, really like to see. Or Tales of Vesperia. That's 4. I cheated. Fuck, get rid of Oblivion. Put Tales of Vesperia in this place. 3. All JRPGs. I want them remastered. I want them looking gorgeous, and I want them on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Let me know your 3 top things that you want remade, that you want to be seeing again, that you want more popularity around in the comments below. Make sure you drop a like, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye, guys.